All right. Iowa beats Minnesota 86-70. Iowa a little hot right now. They started 0-3 in the Big Ten, but now they're starting back up 3-0, so they're 3-3 here. This Iowa team, Fran McCaffery, winningest coach in Iowa history, also after this one. So congrats to him. But this was one where Iowa just like kind of said before is like their offense flourished and Minnesota didn't really have an answer for it. And eventually when the offense flourishes like that, Minnesota started pressing a little bit and trying to keep up, and they just weren't able to. I think Minnesota's a good team, but they just weren't able to keep up with Iowa in this one. And it was evident and hard for them to do. But Dakota, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this was a game to me that I think said a lot more about Iowa than it did Minnesota. And I think I'm probably not alone in saying that Minnesota is probably performing a lot better than many people expected. But at the same time, I don't think it was necessarily fair to think that Minnesota was really going to compete as the season started to progress in the Big Ten. And Iowa, like you said, has been absolutely rolling on offense. And in these types of games where one team is probably still trying to create their identity as a program in Minnesota, Iowa just comes out and just absolutely just takes it to them. And when you have the offensive potential that Iowa does, I think sometimes that can just become just a little bit too much against a team like Minnesota. So I think this definitely says a lot about Iowa. Obviously, you get great game from Krikke. Do we know?
I think Krikke.
I think Krikke too. That's what I always say. And then obviously Jim Dix gets 21 and Perkins 13. So this was just a very solid all-around effort from Iowa against a Minnesota team on the road. Now granted, we've said that it's tough to go on the road and win in the Big Ten, but I think Iowa definitely brought the offensive, firepower enough to kind of just walk away with this one down the stretch. Minnesota kind of played with it for a little bit, but by the time, the bulk of the second half got going, Iowa was kind of, opening this one up a bit. So definitely a good win for Iowa as they're both teams are now 3-3 in conference, but I think Iowa definitely is carrying a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah, I agree. Brent, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Iowa, at the start of the season, they just weren't finding the bottom of the basket. And when you're a Fran McCaffery team who can't score, things aren't going to go well because you already you don't have the defensive firepower that most of the other Big Ten teams do have. But they're slowly starting to come along. They can space the floor really well. Owen Freeman, I think, is a huge piece emerging for this team in the middle as kind of a Luka Garza type almost. Earlier on in Luka Garza's career, pretty similar coming off the bench and coming just clearing the boards and creating some more space for the shooters. So I could see him kind of following in that career trajectory, kind of the way that Garza emerged for them. But when they've got guys who are making shots between Perkins, Sanford, Dix, Krikke, they've got guys who can make shots and who can put the ball in the basket. And they're getting hot right now. Nobody wants to play Iowa when they're making shots because they can beat anyone in the nation. Going on the road and beating Minnesota, Minnesota's not the Minnesota of the past. This is a team they've got a bit of firepower with them. They're definitely playing better basketball than we've seen from the past few seasons. So it's a good win. It really was a good win for them.
Yeah, and I think Ben Johnson has done a good job with this team this season. I think everybody was kind of writing him off, hot seat, not really going to be the guy there. But I think Ben Johnson's done a good job. Dakota, do you have any thoughts on Ben Johnson and the job he's just done overall this season?
No, absolutely. I mean, he's done fantastically. Obviously, a 12-5 record. Granted, not against the best schedule in the country, but I mean, they were, I would say, fairly competitive in most of their losses. But I think he's done a really good job. I think there was a lot of question marks with him last year, obviously being his first year in Minneapolis. But I think he's done a very good job. He's given them a schedule to gain some confidence, and I think he has them playing with a lot of togetherness and a lot of confidence right now, getting into the bulk of Big Ten play.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that has been most impressive to me is the way he's utilizing Dawson Garcia this season. Obviously, Dawson Garcia was a good scorer last season, but just what he's been able to put around him, Elijah Hawkins sharing the ball the way that he's been able to, and they have good guys that are coming off the bench as well. Farrell Payne, he wasn't a great factor in this game, and I think that contributed to Minnesota not winning, but he's been great this season as well. Mike Mitchell Jr. has been a good starter starter for them. He's, giving you good numbers, almost double digits for assists and points in nearly every game so far. So I like what Ben Johnson is doing with this team, and kind of similar to Penn State, I'm thinking to myself, like, this team has potential and can go somewhere. It's just not their year yet. And I think that they were more likely to possibly make the tournament. I don't think they probably are. I think this is a loss that kind of, a home loss to Iowa in this one that kind of takes you out of that a little bit, but they could certainly go on a run and beat some good teams and make something happen. So, Brant, do you have any thoughts on the outlook of Minnesota the rest of the season, or Ben Johnson, or just how this team has looked this year overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think their season started very well. They didn't really have any big non-conference games. The win over Michigan on the road was big for them. But really, when you look at the games they've played, I mean, they won at home against Nebraska. That's probably their best win. I think it's really just more of a testament of their schedule rather than how good this team actually is. And this just has all the makings of a team that the wheels are going to fall off. You look at their upcoming schedule; they play tomorrow at Michigan State, who's playing a little bit better. Then they play at home against Wisconsin. They play on the road at Penn State, who we just talked about. Not an easy place to play. I think Penn State's probably a better team. Then you play at home against Northwestern, at home against Michigan State, on the road against Iowa. I would not be surprised to see them go 0-6 down that stretch. I really wouldn't. I think the wheels are going to fall off for this Minnesota team. And I think people are going to be talking about Ben Johnson the way they kind of were at the start of the season.
Would you say kind of like an Ohio State collapse in January?
It could be an Ohio State-esque collapse. It could be.
I got a joke about it. Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy. Dylan said to you, Dakota, a familiar face in the Purdue Twitter streets. So yes, Dylan, we bring all of Purdue Twitter, Purdue Twitter streets over here to the Big Ten Huddle, and make sure they know that they're wanted and loved. I think at the end of the day, kind of like what I said at the beginning, Iowa just got rolling on offense, and there are very few teams in the country, not many teams in the Big Ten, Purdue probably being the only one, maybe Illinois. I think Illinois could do it too, but, if Iowa was just rolling on offense and going on their streaks, then, there's not many teams that can really keep up with them. Minnesota went on a couple good streaks. They had like a 10-0 run to start the game. They had a 7-0 run, I think, at one point. But Iowa, they just consistently were going and doing really good things. They had a 7 run, a 6 run, a 7 run as well for Iowa near the beginning of the game. But Iowa's just kind of one of those teams. They keep scoring and they keep making you press, and it's really, really difficult to overcome that. So, thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out. Get in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.